Okay, so the typical home inspection takes about 3 hours from start to finish. And the typical start times are 9 a.m., 12 noon, or 3 p.m. And the inspectors strongly encourage you to be there during that entire inspection. So if it's both of you, a couple buying, both of you should take the time off work and go there because it's a fantastic opportunity to learn as much about that home as you can. Now you're going to be following them everywhere and asking lots of questions. You might have noticed in the video, the only place you don't follow them these days is up on the roof. In the early days, we used to go there all the time, but they found that they were getting the fire truck over too many times to get people down off the roof, right? It's not so hard going up on the steep ladder, but it's very scary coming back down, right? So, don't go up on the roof, but follow them everywhere, ask lots of questions. Now, your inspector is going to be making copious notes into a little notepad as he tours through the house. He's also going to be giving you a very good running description of everything that he's seeing and finding. And then at the end, he's going to take about 20 minutes and put all his findings together, and then he's going to deliver a report to you. First of all, he's going to deliver a verbal report, and you can print it out oftentimes on site. And it's basically a very simple report. It's divided into the various portions of the house, the electrical, the furnace, the plumbing, the foundations, the roof, windows, and so on, right? And each section is going to tell you how much the potential repairs might cost, if any. And then there's going to be a red tabbed item, which is the bottom line for anything that's over $1,000 or greater. It's going to be in one central location. So you've got all the potential big ticket items listed in one place. Then you're going to give them a check for about $440 plus GST. And now you've got everything that you need to make a buy, don't buy decision for that particular home. So any questions on the home inspection?
I have a question. If there are too many problems, for example, that
Sure.
Can we get a discount for all those? So if we want to, for example, do renovation.
Exactly. So let's assume we're not in a multiple offer, because all of that's out the window, right? So let's assume we're negotiating one-on-one with the seller. We can absolutely go back and say, listen, we didn't know that, we thought that roof was good, but it's not, and it's going to cost us quite a bit. We want to get a credit on closing for that amount. Sometimes the seller will say yes, sometimes you'll split the cost, and sometimes they'll say no. If they say no and you don't want to go ahead, then we just walk away. You might still say, well, you know what, I really love this house, it's perfect, I'll go ahead anyway, because you think you've got a really good price on it, right? So, but that decision is in your hands at that point in time to say goodbye or say okay.
What if we buy something that we know there are lots of problems with it, just for renovation?
Right.
At that point, do we still need?
No, because we're going to negotiate with the seller based upon knowing that it's an old furnace and the wiring needs to be repaired and that roof shingles are curling up and they need work. We're going to negotiate based on that. So you can't what Sally called
double dip.
Okay, so we're going to negotiate strongly at the beginning and hopefully get the price. And then the inspector comes in and he says, oh yeah, well you knew that. Yep, you knew that. Yep, you knew that. Okay, fine. All right, any other questions on the inspection?
Does the home inspection cost vary according to the cost of the home, or it's
not for most of us mere mortals? I mean, if you're buying a $2 million home, where there's 2 or 3 furnaces, perhaps, it's 30,000 square feet, then it's going to cost more. But for most of the homes that we build and buy or trade up to about $1 million, it's typically the one cost.
I think it's up to 2,500 square feet, and then it starts accelerating from there. Okay.
Okay, so Sally's here to talk about the buyer consultation now. Don't ask her how we met.
My version's the true version, right? But we won't go into that. Actually, I was standing here and I saw this question here. When's a good time to buy? And I'm going to talk to you about consultations right now. And this is a really good question to lead into consultations. Because when is the right time to buy? And everybody's concerned, the market's strong. Last year it was like the market was doing this way. So it's always a question. And really, a consultation is a good place to start with your agent to find out when is the right time to buy. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about consultations. We start every relationship with our buyers in a consultation type environment. And so we suggest that if you do go work with another agent, that you start with a consultation. Because unfortunately, a lot of people bump into an agent at an open house, or maybe they've called on a internet, and all of a sudden that agent is now your agent. And people make mistakes because they A, haven't chosen the right agent, or B, had the agent even asked them any questions, and there's no guidance and no thoughts for you. Because there's a lot of things that you don't know, and until we start asking the questions, you go, oh, I didn't think about that. Like I have a lady just came on Saturday to one of my workshops. She's only been in her condo 1 year. And it totally does not work for her. But she never stopped to think about, how am I going to deal with my life now as a single woman? And just blasted into the first place she saw on the internet, and now it totally doesn't work. And that's a very expensive mistake. So I'm going to tell you what we do at a consultation, and it'll give you a benchmark to work from. So our consultations typically take place in our office. They last between an hour to 2 and averaging around an hour and a half. Now we like to get prepared ahead of time. So we're going to ask you to get prepared ahead of time. And sometimes we're going to ask you questions and have you fill out forms that makes you think a little bit deeper than I just want to buy a home. Okay? So the first form we're going to have you complete is the personal financial counseling form. Along with this form, we're going to ask you 2 questions. The first of many, but 2 questions. And the first one is just simply, how much is your down payment? Now, for some people, they're not quite sure what their down payment is, and they're not quite sure how much money they need for a down payment. So we're going to ask you, how much is your down payment? And then we're going to ask you, how much do you want to spend monthly to run this home? Once again, this might be the first time you're thinking about this. Now, what we're going to do with this information, we're going to prepare some spreadsheets for you. The first spreadsheet is just simply the GDS, TDS, Tom talked about in the definitions. It's the magic formula that the bank uses to qualify you. So if you walked into a branch tomorrow or called a mortgage consultant, they're going to say, based on this information, this is what we would give you. The second spreadsheet we're going to do for you is called the buyer cash flow comparison. But what I like to do, I call it the reality spreadsheet. Because that's what it's going to do. It's going to bring some reality to your buying power. Because most people are going into their first home are either living in a rental where everything is all inclusive, or if you're lucky enough, you're still living at home and it's free and you don't have a clue what it's going to cost to run a home. This is what we're going to do with this spreadsheet. We're going to help you customize your price range based on your budget. Okay, so what we do is we take your range of purchase prices, and the reason we do a range is because someone might say, I want to spend $300,000, but actually qualify for 5. So we're going to give you a range because, once again, people tend to overestimate how much it's going to cost to live in a home. So we take our range, we then put in your down payment. In this particular case, it's a 10% down payment. We then build in the carrying costs. We've got heat, hydro, water, taxes, insurance. If you're going into a condo, we're going to put the condo fees in. We then have the mortgage payment. And then at the far side, we have what it's going to cost to run a home in these different price brackets. So if you tell me you're comfortable spending $2,900 to $3,000 a month, all I have to do is go down this line till I get around to $2,900 to $3,000. I come across and I know that you should be buying a home in that $375,000 range. because that's going to fit the budget. When most people go to the bank and the bank pre-approves you, the bank does not take these kind of expenses into consideration. All they want is the principal, interest, tax, and 50% of the heat or 50% of the condo fees, which really is not what you're going to be paying. So if we're going to customize your price range based on that monthly amount, we need to make it quite accurate. You shouldn't just guess at it, right? So what we recommend you do is a budget. We've given you the form. It can be quite painful, but we suggest that you do it, okay? And here's what I recommend you do. Take every expense that comes into your life, whether it's food, clothes, TTC, if you belong to a gym, if you like to travel, you're going to contribute to an RSP. If you've got a child, the daycare, birthdays, Christmas, any expense that comes into your life, you need to break it down to a monthly amount, deduct that from your net monthly income, because when they bank pre-approve you, they pre-approve you on gross. You know you don't take gross home. Then you deduct that from your net monthly income, and hopefully you have something left at the end of your month. And unfortunately, I have seen people who don't. And what we need to do now is reassess what's going on with your spending habits. And the good thing about this is now we know where the money is disappearing. I mean, how many times do you say, God, I don't know where it's gone. It's just not there anymore, right? If you track it for 1 month, what you're spending, you can now see where the money disappears to and then redirect it to help you buy that home. I'll give you an example. I had some people that were coming in for a consultation. They had been to the bank for a pre-approval, and they were pre-approved for quite a large amount of money. And they said, there is no way we want to get into that much debt, because obviously, you know, if you think the Visa bill is scary, well, you know, you're signing on hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they said, there's no way we're going to take that kind of mortgage. So I knew their budget, they had told me. I knew what they had been pre-approved for. They sent me their wish list. I knew where they wanted to live. And looking at the big picture, I knew they were not going to get that house in that neighborhood for the money that they were willing to spend. Now, the good news was they could afford to live in that neighborhood. Their budget was just $200 a month short. So when I met with them, I told them that this was the case. And they said, well, we really had our heart set on this location. So I said, well, you're going to have to come up with an extra $200. So they had brought their budget with them. I left them alone for 5 minutes, and they played with the budget. And it was really detailed. Magazine subscriptions, movies, dinners out, latte factor. Yeah. How many times do you go to the coffee shop, you drop $5? You don't think twice about it. It's just gone. One of the guys on our team added up that he spent $3,000 in Starbucks in a 12-month period. Pretty shaky guy. But all they had to do was say, well, look, if we don't eat out so often, maybe we go to the library more often rather than buying new books and magazines. Maybe we just take our lunch 3 or 4 days a week instead of eating lunch out every day. It wasn't a massive sacrifice to their daily life. You know, it was just 20 here, 30 here, 40 here. Didn't take much to come up with $200. But what it meant was is they could now buy a home in the neighborhood of their choice. So you can see the benefit of doing this. And this is the first thing that we're going to cover in our consultation, is the financing. Because it's the building block of your purchase, and you shouldn't be seriously looking at homes until you know, will the bank give you the money, and are you comfortable spending it? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move on to the wish list. Once again, we suggest that you fill this out ahead of time, because it really gives you a time, especially if it's a couple, a time to sit down and discuss it. Because there's times when people have sat down in front of me and this is the first time they are actually talking about it. Now, we're there for consultation on how to buy a home. We're not really good at marriage counseling, so it's really a good idea to do this ahead of time. So, as you can see, our wish list says would likes and must-haves. This is what I call the logical wish list. This is the bedrooms, the bathrooms, where you're going to park the car. But there's a whole other side to buying a home. And as corny as it sounds, it's the emotional side. Now, it doesn't mean to say you have to burst into tears with joy every time you go home. But most people, it's not about the home itself. It's about what surrounds it and the needs that you have for that property. Okay, so it could be many things, like you want to be in a mature neighborhood. You like the trees and you like the ambiance of a mature neighborhood. Other people want brand new home never lived in, and they're willing to live in a neighborhood that grows over time. It could be that if you're going to live in a condo, it has to be maybe a 10-15 minute walk to work, and preferably have a glimpse of the water if possible, right? It could be that you want to be within a 10 to 15 minute radius of a subway station. Maybe it's close to a family member. Maybe it's the opposite end of the city to that family member. There's lots of things that you need to share with us, because the clearer picture we get, the clearer picture you get, it will make your search so much easier. And a lot of people get frustrated because they don't know where to start, and they don't know where to start because there's so much information. And that's the beauty of today, is we have all kinds of information available to us. But for a lot of people, it's information overload. So this allows us to help you get focused. So we've already focused down on the financing side of it. Now we have to bring, unfortunately, reality to this wish list. We ask you to build the dream with us, but then there is the compromise. So what you need to think about is, usually when it comes to compromising, and there's very, very few people have the budget to buy the exact home that they were hoping to get. And it doesn't matter what your budget is. I had some people one time, they had a $3 million budget. And I thought, well, this is nice. And I couldn't find them a home, because the home they wanted was a $6 million home. And they weren't willing to compromise. So they went back to Bermuda, I think it was, the Bahamas or something, and lived in their perfect home on the beach there, because they couldn't find it here, right? So usually the compromises that we're working with, and we need to find out what's your number one thing you do have to have, and then the rest of it becomes compromises. So compromises could be the location. Usually location is number one for a lot of people. It could be the price. You say you want to spend this, but we might need to spend this. It could be the size. Some people will have the dream of this big house and they actually end up with a little one. And then it could be condition. They say, well, the only way I can live in this particular neighborhood with the money that I have to spend is in this kind of home, and I'm probably going to have to fix it up as time goes by. So what we have in this conversation is to say, well, here's the dream. What are we going to have to give up to make this happen for you? So what we do is you've already sent us the form ahead of time, so we've already got your wish list into the Toronto Real Estate Board search system. And then what we do is we bring up the matches. And this part here is probably the biggest part for you as far as getting some clarity, and it's also where we learn about you. So say we have a conversation. No busy streets, no fixing up, and it has to be freehold. So freehold is when you're 100% responsible for the property. Obviously a condo, whether it's a townhouse or a high-rise, you're paying some kind of fee for someone to help you maintain that property. So we have 20 homes that have come up as a match for you. Now, are we going to rush out and see those homes? No. This is where we actually spend the time, a bulk of the time actually, going through these listings. Now, we don't have to spend hours at it, but what we're going to do is virtually visit these homes. And this is technology. Even since I've been in the business, technology has changed. I've been in the business 16 years. Tom's been in the business over 30 years. His database was as big a book as you could carry around with you. And the only way you knew that the new listings came out is because they sent paper out every day to your real estate office. You had to go pick up the paper, and then you'd look through the listings to see what's come up. Now we have everything. I mean, we have room size, lot size, descriptions from the agents, virtual tour, gallery of photos. We can come in from satellite and see who the next door neighbor is and what they're having for dinner on their barbecue. I mean, we can get tons of information. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to visit these homes and decide, is this worth going out and looking at or not? So we'll pull up the listings. 5 of the 20 are busy streets. We don't need to even bother looking at those because you don't want to live on a busy street. And now we're down to 15. And the first listing comes up, and the photo from the street doesn't look that bad. It looks a little tatty. But the description says, looking for your creative touch. What a great opportunity. Diamond in the rough. When it says need some TLC, it's getting worse. Handyman special, pretty rough. I think you're getting the idea here. You know, when it says in as is condition, bring a flashlight and be aware of the hole in the kitchen floor. You know it's a dump, right? We don't need to go see that home. So we flip to the next listing. Up comes the full color photo, and you say, that is one ugly looking house. And everybody has a different version of unattractive. But I can tell you, most people, I would say 90% of people, if not more, if they don't like the photo from the street, won't bother going to see it. And you shouldn't, because there's that emotional attachment. And if it's a house that you've convinced yourself, logically it makes sense, but you'll never invite anybody over because you wouldn't be embarrassed to have someone see that you live in an ugly home, or you have to walk in backwards. This is not good, right? I had a client buy a house on logic. I mean, when we pulled up to see this home, I said, do you really want to see this? It's like, well, we're here, let's have a look. We went inside, and logically, that home made sense. It had bigger rooms, better layout than anything else that we had seen. But she hated it. 7 years later, she sold it and said, I hated every day I lived in this place. Because every time she pulled in the driveway, she cringed and thought, I can't believe I live here. It was that ugly. And the amazing thing was she never tried to make it look good. It still looked the same 7 years later. It wasn't even a planter out the front. I mean, there was no attempt. Maybe she thought it was hopeless. So now this is good because you recognize the style you don't like, and we recognize the style you don't like. We don't ever have to show you a home like this. And then up comes the next photo. And we do the virtual tour, and every single room has got a different color of the rainbow through it. And you go, oh my goodness, that's atrocious. What were they thinking? But the description has it sounding really good. They have just done renovations. The kitchen is newer. The furnace is newer. The electrical has been done. The windows are newer. The roof is newer. So, if you've got something that has a lot of work done to it and it's just the cosmetics, that's definitely worth a look. Because paint and decorating and sort of the cosmetic stuff is relatively inexpensive, makes a huge impact because it's the big ticket items that are going to suck your dollars away. And you're actually never going to feel like it's not that great. Right? So what are you going to be looking for if you're buying a freehold property? Number one, never mess with, is the structure. If you're going into an older home, you can get some sagging and dipping, and it happens to the best of us as we get older. But I mean, there are some homes in Toronto that have been built on dried up stream beds, and they have shifted quite severely. And there's pockets like in Hyde Park, the beach, there's some in the central area. So there's little pockets around, so you need to be careful. I mean, if you're ever on shore coming south from DuPont, drive slowly, especially on the west side of the street. It's pretty bad. Some of them are really bad. The problem with buying something with structural issues is when we go to do a home inspection, we are there as guests. We can't whack down walls. We can't dig trenches around the outside. The home inspector can only give you a visual of what he thinks might be going on. But you don't know if it's a $10,000 job or a $60,000 job. And until you own that home and then can start digging, you don't know what's going on. So don't mess with the structure. The other big ticket items you're looking at are roof, windows, furnace and AC, electrical. If you are looking at older homes, and older 45 to 50 years and older, most of them were built with 60 amp service knob and tube wiring. The insurance companies don't like it anymore. And they've got to the point now where they want it gone. For average size home, you are looking at $12,000 to maybe $18,000 to rewire. It's not cheap. And I can tell you, after you rewire and put in a new furnace, no one is going to come after us and say, oh, that looks amazing. It's just one of those things that needs to be done. Whereas with the other house, you go in and you do a kitchen and a bathroom, people are going to say, wow, that's great. Okay? So just be careful of what work you need to be done. And some of these that the work's been done, you've just got to do the cosmetics. And say we get to the final home, and it says designer's own home, gut reno, 10 plus. Oh, did Debbie Travis live here? This will have you believe this could be a pretty awesome looking home. We are back to multiple offer and have been probably since last March, April. And as a lot of the homes that get the multiple offers are the ones that have been staged, fluffed, or people actually live in homes that look that amazing. What you need to be careful of with homes that have been staged and fluffed is they should not be deceptive about what they're hiding. A lot of the time it's about drawing your attention away from things that they don't want you to pay attention to, right? So sometimes these staged homes you need to pay more attention to because you're wondering what's going on. So although you've walked in, and what happens sometimes, the ambiance is so amazing, and this is why it's become so huge. You walk in the door and like that, you see yourself living in that home. There is an attachment right there. Okay? So be careful, because you might be enamored by the big screen TV and the surround sound system, or the, the great leather couches and all the candles and, everything that goes on. But you have to look what's going on, and you need someone to say to you, okay, that looks really great, but look at this electrical service. Look at this furnace. You need to look really closely, because you need to have an idea of what it's going to cost you to fix that home up at the end of the day. Because you don't want it to fall apart. You don't spend $400 or $500 on a home inspection to find out that it was just a piece of poop. You just wasted $400 or $500. You don't want to walk away from it. You should have someone to be able to tell you, this is what we can expect in a home inspection. And a home inspection, if you've got a good agent, a home inspector is only going to confirm what your agent has told you and possibly find something that, like, I don't climb on roofs. So if it's a flat roof, I don't know, it needs to be done. I don't open up the furnace. I don't open up the electrical panel. So it's only sometimes a surprise that pops up, unless your agent is not showing you properly.
Does a home inspection typically happen after you've already put down a deposit, or?
It can vary. So there's two kinds of scenarios. The better scenario is you go in, you see a home, you want to put in an offer, back and forth, conditional on finance and conditional on home inspection. You've agreed to it, you give them the deposit, you have your finance company start working on a commitment, and you call a home inspection company. And we usually have 4 days to do that. And that's, you have the option, yes, this is working for me, or no, it's not. Or I go back and I say, look, you know what? I didn't know this flat roof needed to be done next week. It's going to cost me $3,000. I want $3,000. Okay? The other scenario is the multiple offer situation. And this is where, for example, I had some clients see a house last night. They are taking offers on Monday. We suspect it's going to be a fight. And we'll probably go and do a home inspection on Monday morning so that we can go into our offer firm. So no financing, no home inspection, but at least we've done it. so that we're not, at the end of the day when you say, okay, well, I bought this house, and then you find out there's all kinds of problems. So there's the two scenarios on that. Okay? So you just have to be careful. I had a client, we had gone out to see some homes, and she didn't sort of kind of connect with the first set. So then we go out another time, and she sees the home she loves, and I hated it. But I wasn't buying it, so she put in an offer. And we didn't get it. 4 other people put an offer in as well. And I said, why this one? She said, well, I don't know, it just feels special. It's a house at Woodbine and Danforth. I mean, they're all pretty much the same, other than what people do to them. But she liked the feel of this home. The reason I didn't like this place, because it had a 29-year-old furnace. Life expectancy is 20 to 25 years. It had 60 amp service knob and tube wiring, all got to be replaced. Every window in that home was original, and it needed a new roof. So you're looking at a massive amount of money to fix these, and everything you've fallen in love with is either A, in the moving truck, or gone back to the staging company, right? So what have you just fought over? Furniture you're not even going to get. So you have to be careful. It's the same with condos. It's much easier with a condo. You get what you see. We're not looking at the guts of the building. With a condo, we're more concerned about the financial stability of the building. And then we would be conditional upon status on that. And Tom will cover that a little bit later on. So, yes?
If you're buying a new home, any tips you might have? Or looking at new houses, just built or on a plan?
Tips for new homes. You really want to make sure that you've checked into the builder. Are they reputable? Go and see some of the sites that they have done. You want to, there's lots of things in the negotiations as far as levies and taxes and stuff like that could be tacked on. But as far as looking at the home, usually if it's a brand new home, it's not so crucial that you do a home inspection at the time. What you do is it's called a PDI, a pre-delivery inspection. So you walk through with one of their reps and say, okay, well, I'm not happy with that, I'm not happy with that. And then you sign off on that. It's better to do a home inspection at the 11-month mark, because usually you have until the first year where they'll come back and do the repairs. So at least if you have a home inspector, he can say, well, look, this is shifted or this is not quite right, so that you put that down and say, I need this fixed as my 1-year mark. Okay? Sometimes it's a good idea to buy a new home, but that has maybe just a year or two. It's had time to settle, it's had time to have any problems rise its head, So it feels newer, but there's no surprises. Okay. So what you can see we've done here is in this period of time, and it can be as short as half an hour that we've done this. Doesn't draw out for hours. We've learned a lot, you've learned a lot, and then what we've done is we might have gone from 20 down to 15 because 5 were on busy streets, and we might have gone from 15 to 10 because some were ugly and some needed too much work. Now, if it's a neighborhood that you're familiar with, then we just book the appointments, we go out and see those homes, those 10 homes that are left. But what a lot of people like to do is they actually like to take those listings and drive around the neighborhood. Because for a lot of people, we are discovering new territory for you. Because you might come in with a wish list, and honest to goodness, I've seen this. From Whitby to Burlington, from the lake up to Barrie, it could be a detached semi or a townhouse. That's massive, that's overwhelming. So what we need to do is bring it down to sort of manageable size, but we might be showing you neighborhoods that you've never been to before. You have to remember, you are the ones that are 100% responsible to know whether that neighborhood is going to work for you. You can ask me, do I think it's a good neighborhood? And you can ask somebody else, and you'll get 2 completely different answers. Okay? You need to drive there, daytime, nighttime. You need to see what the transportation's like. What's the shopping like? Do you feel safe if you walked around at night? Stop people on the street. Talk to them. See how they feel. What about all these other things that you need to have in your life? You need to find that out. Up until recently, we could not get statistics on crime, but you can now. I don't have it on the top of my head, but there is a site that and if you can contact me and I can let you know. There is a site that you can go to get crime for different neighborhoods. The police, if you phone the police station, they're not supposed to tell you anything. Sometimes they do. There's a site called homezilla.ca. It's kind of like godzilla.ca, but it's homezilla.ca. All you have to do is type in an address, and it will tell you a lot of statistics about where that home is in the neighborhood, the schools, the income brackets, some of the crime. There's lots of stuff that it can tell you. So it's a really good place to start. So maybe after doing your drive around, that 10 might have shrunk to 5. Maybe one's on a corner and you don't like the corner lot. Maybe one's next to a crack house and that's not such a good idea. So what you're going to do is you're going to come back to me and say, okay, here's the 5. These are the ones I want to have a look at. And those are the ones that we'll go out and see together. So as you can see, we've taken the dream, bring some reality to it. We know what we have to spend, and here's how we go out and proceed from here. And that's the advantage of doing a consultation versus just hitting the streets running and really not thinking about some of the things that's going to take you long term. And you might find in a year or two, say, oh shoot, if I'd have thought this out a little bit, I might have done this differently. And it's expensive to move, okay, quickly. And as much as we like to see our clients very often, it's not good for you. So you really need to think it out. Especially now in Toronto that we have 2 land transfer taxes. You get a break on your first time out, but you don't on the second time. They'll double wham you. So you need to plan out a little bit further. So we're getting close to the break now. I'm going to tell you, we have a couple of programs that we offer people who choose to work with us on our team. And one of them is the Preferred Buyer program. So that means that someone who's been in for the consultation, we've been out to see that initial batch of homes, haven't found the right home, and what we do is we have your search profile in the TREB system. Each night it pulls out the matches. Each morning we go in, we review those listings, and then we send them out, email them out to you. The other program is Home Watch. In Home Watch are for people that are not ready for consultation just yet. But they would like to start researching and looking at the listings. The difference is it's automatic. We can't screen because we haven't sat down. We don't have a good idea of what you're looking for. So it can't tell a side street from a busy street. It can't tell a handyman special from a Debbie Travis fixed up home. It's there for information purposes. And sometimes people start a year ahead. And they say, okay, send me homes in this neighborhood. They check it out, they walk around, and they say, you know what, I don't like that. Let's try here. And a year later, you come back and you say, okay, well, now I know what I want, where it is, and how much it costs me. So you can never start your research too early, so it's a really good place to start. So we are going to take a break. Before we do, I just want to mention 2 more things. As Carson Dunlop says, there's no perfect home. The more you're willing to compromise, the faster you will get into the market. If you keep holding on for it's nice, but, there'll always be a but. And sometimes you've got to get over the but, right, to get into that home. Maybe the second time around you'll be a lot pickier, but, sometimes it's better to get into the market with a compromise versus holding on for that perfect home. And this is where the leap of faith comes in. A leap of faith is a lot of people don't know what they want because of the fear, or the fear of the unknown stops them from getting in the market. And I know when you leave here today, you have a much better understanding of how this is going to come together and probably feel a lot more confident that it's not so overwhelming and scary as you thought it might be. Some people know what they want. They're on the journey to get there. So say I'd love that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a private drive. But you know what, I just got to pay down my debt, and I've just got to get my promotion, and all the stars are going to align to the right spot. And when you get there, that home doesn't exist in your price point anymore. it's constantly out of reach. So maybe what you need to think about is maybe that home isn't the first home. Maybe I could get into the market with a 3-bedroom semi, 2-bedroom townhouse, 1-bedroom condo. Most people are in their first home. It used to be 3 to 5 years. I'm finding people are doing more like 5 to 7 now, just because they've added the extra land transfer tax, so it gets that a little bit more expensive. So you say, well, okay, if I'm going to be in this first home 5 years, what can I live with for this next 5 years? I'd love that 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, 2, main floor family room home, but I can live with this. So then you get into the market. You get somewhere where you're going to work the appreciation, and I have seen some wonderful appreciation. I had a guy actually just sold his place yesterday. He bought his first condo with me. He just made $110,000 that he would never have been able to save. He's now moved up to his second home. I've seen people make large amounts of money that they would never be able to save, but they've built the equity, and not only did the property appreciate, but he's paid his mortgage down in the meantime. So he's created even more equity for him.
You've been in the market 16 years, so over that time, have home prices usually gone up?
Yes.
I mean, usually what goes up comes down. That's a lot of things.
Okay. I got in the market in 93, 92, something like that. And the market was still in a downward slide. It was just stabilizing at that time. And then from then, it's been a steady climb up. Last year, we saw, what hit the fan worldwide. And we thought, where is this going to head? And everybody thought we were going to be like the US. But we were lucky that we didn't. We saw 6 months of a slower market. Some homes went down faster than others. I think they said from September, October of 2008 till about March, April of 2009 in Toronto, some places went down 13%. In the 905 area, I think it went down 7%. But we more than made up for it. It turned so fast, really fast. We started seeing things stall in September, and by March, April, by May, June, July, every single month after that, except for August, we had record-breaking months. Last year, 2009, we lost the first quarter to the down market. We finished the second highest sales in the history of the Toronto Real Estate Board, even though we lost the first quarter. So although things went up, we had a tiny little blip, and now we're back up again. And the projection is this year is not going to be quite so crazy. We're hoping to get more inventory. We're hoping that a lot of the pent-up demand for that 6 months where people jumped off the fence has been satisfied. And they're talking about a 5% appreciation this year. 5%, that's 5% on the entire value. That's not 5% on your down payment, your deposit, right? You make a 5% on the whole thing. So it's still not bad. And we've been really lucky in the Toronto market, although it felt like it's been really strong. It's been a gradual climb, unlike Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton, which was spiked by the oil and it went crazy all of a sudden. Well, they went like this and then they went like this. We were just very slow and steady.
But do you think it's a good time to buy?
Okay. I say the best time to buy is when you find the right home. Okay? You have to, there's things that you need to think about. The right time is when you think you're ready. Is your job stability there? Because, the economy is we're not stable yet, 100%. Is your job stable? If your job is stable enough that you think, I'm safe here, Nobody's 100%, but do you feel stable? Do you have the monies ready to do this? Do you feel ready to take on this responsibility? And if you go out and find the right home, then it's the right time. If you think if I wait longer, it'll come back down again, it's not. We have seen the downturn, and it lasted us 6 months. And if you didn't jump on then, you missed it. If you blinked, it was gone. It's not going to come back down again. It might slow down, but I don't think you're going to see it come down. If it was going to crash, we would have seen it last year when the rest of the world was crashing, and we didn't. So, just think about getting into the market with that compromise versus waiting for the perfect home. Yes?
I wanted to ask you quickly. I've seen these like crazy listings for condos, like $650,000, $1,000 a month property fees, maintenance fees plus $3,000 a year property taxes. How are people qualifying for this? I mean, not everybody makes $100,000 a year, so how are banks qualifying this?
Well, the advantage that we have right now is the interest rates are amazing. And we still have 35-year amortization. And that's the way they've been able to get people to be able to afford it. Because up until a couple of years ago, we only ever had 25-year amortization. They've realized in the major cities where the prices have climbed so dramatically, to make it affordable, they've had to stretch out the amortization. They did take it out to 40. They've taken it back to 35. Jim Flaherty is talking about even taking that away from us. But then it takes even more people out of the market again. So the only way people can afford it is to stretch out their amortization a little bit more. And I would say huge portion of first-time buyers are going with 35-year amortization right now. And probably George will talk about that if you have any questions on mortgage financing after the break. Sorry, I forgot to warn you about that one. Obviously, this is why you're here, is to give yourself the knowledge to do this the right way. And I really think that, taking the time, although it's been a long day and probably tired and hungry, it's well worth when you're spending your life savings to take some time to really learn about it. So I really commend the fact that you are taking the time. So before we take the break, I'd like to just have you go to your packages and take out the few forms. I just would like to explain them to you, because if you do have a few minutes through the break, if you could start filling them out, and we're going to collect them at the end of the evening. Now, orange forms. I think you have the orange form. It says buyer planning session or consultation. Now, I've just spoken about consultations. Consultations are for people who are ready to get into their new home as of yesterday to the next 3, 4, possibly 5 months. And I say that is because once we start this process, and we start looking at the listings and you get all excited, and I have so many people say, I'm not in a hurry, and then we finish the consultation and they're panicking, they've got to get out and start right away. It's like pushing the snowball halfway down the hill. It's hard to pull it back again. So we say that the consultation, if you want to be into your home fairly soon. But we do offer a planning session. And a planning session is exactly what the title says it is. It can be done in half an hour to 45 minutes. We're going to go through your financing. We're going to go through your wish list. We're going to analyze where you're at. Sometimes people are ready, they just don't know they're ready. Or we might need to put a plan together. It might be some debt consolidation. It might be how to build your savings. And then you leave with a plan and a timeline. Because if you have a goal and you put a plan to it, it will happen more readily than if you just say, well, I'm going to do this one of these days. Okay, so if you are interested in taking what we've gathered here tonight and taking it more to a one-on-one session, you can complete the planning session or the consultation, and either myself or John will be in touch with you to set something up. The long yellow form is the door prize registration form, and we have a few prizes to give away. And so if you can take a few minutes to fill this out, and as I say, we'll collect them at the end of the evening. The green form, if you are interested in the Home Watch program, so you're not ready to get in the market yet, but would like to start getting the listings. The great thing about this program is this comes straight from the Toronto Real Estate Board. So as we get the listings, you get the listings. The public system is about sometimes a 2 to 3 day delay. So sometimes by the time you get it, it's gone. So this is a much faster system for you to be involved with. So if you fill out the green form, once again, John and I will call you and we will get a little bit more information and get that started for you. Something we started in the middle of last year was a Saturday tour of homes. And this is for people who are not sure what they want or where they want it. So what we do is we have you pick some homes and we go out and have a look at these homes just to give you an idea of locations and styles to helps you get started on getting focused on that. So that's the blue form. And finally, George Christopoulos is going to be speaking to you after the break. So if you feel like you do need a mortgage consultation, you can talk to George, fill out the form, and he'll set up an appointment with you to set up a time to talk to you about your funds. Any more questions? No? Thank you so much for listening to my portion of the workshop. Hope you got something out of this. And I do hope you give us the opportunity of talking with you when you're ready to get into your new home. Please use us as a resource center. If you have any questions after tonight, it's like, oh boy, I should have asked that. You can email us, you can call us. We're there to provide a lot of information. You can go to our website. We have tons of information on our website. We've been doing these for close to 15 years now, I think 13, 14 years. And we're all about giving people education through this process. So we do hope to see some of you in the future.